Howdy coffee lovers, welcome to an all new episode of The Right Roast. Now, today we will be tasting a very special coffee. This one is a Honduras by Swedish roasters per Nordby. That's not just the man's name, that's also the company. Now, I also want to use this tasting to compare the flavor difference profile basically between the very popular French press method that if you've been watching my show you'll know I'm not a big fan of, and the classic V60 method, which I am a fan of. Okay, and that's it. Right, they're ready. Let's taste them. One cafetiere. One V60. First a cafetiere. Okay, and I won't describe it yet. I'm going to make a comparison. Wow, well that's instant. The first thing I'm getting is the body, the feel of the coffee in my mouth. The cafetiere gives me a sort of cloudy and sort of, it's very aggressive. I'm getting the flavor of something in there that is in the V60 version. Hard to tell without getting a palate cleanser in between. But the flavor notes are, they're not distinct. There's a cloudiness to everything. Having said that, there is the flavor profile coming through. I mean, a tip would be, I'd imagine, to, once you've brewed the coffee in the cafetiere and you've pushed it down, possibly to decant it into something else, because it will continue to brew. A French press brew method is also known as an immersion brew method, which means it's basically sitting in the water and just being extracted merely by sitting there. The V60 method is done by pouring the water over the coffee and straight in, and that's the only time that the water has contact with the beans themselves. Think of the difference really as the French press coffee being like having a bath and the V60 as having a shower. So there you can clearly see that the V60 will give you a much cleaner cup. The other main reason for getting a cleaner coffee is this. Now, the filter method on the French press is a metal mesh. And that metal mesh, however practical it is that you can just rinse and reuse, what you suffer from is getting all the oils seep through the tiny holes in the filter. So you get a much cloudier coffee because of the immersion, and you get a much oilier coffee because of the metal mesh filter. The paper filter method, as in the Chemex and the V60 and the AeroPress, it basically means there are no tiny holes. It's porous and it can separate the oils much better, thus leaving a cleaner cup. And therefore you can also pick out the flavor notes much more distinctly. Which is very, very obvious to me as I put them side by side. The acidity in the mouth that comes at the sides balances out with the sweetness perfectly. The delicate balance that the roaster himself is aiming for is somewhat lost in the French press method. It just feels like a blunt knife compared to a switchblade in this cup. They're very obvious. So if you want a coffee that's going to be full-bodied, maybe you won't be able to tell the difference so much in the French press. Well, the coffee itself is a Honduras coffee, and I get very excited about sweet coffees like this because the sweetness comes in so many forms, and when you get this sort of caramel sweetness in balance, it's a really exciting coffee. It's fantastic. So basically I'll say this. Don't fear the V60, because when it comes to making precision coffee, the same rules apply for both. You're going to have to grind, you're going to have to weigh, and you're going to have to pour slowly and carefully and wait. So in the end, you're not adding much more time to making coffee in a V60. For the cleanest cup of coffee you can have, it should always be paper filter. Thanks for watching.